Okay, Rabbi Sai, some would argue, given the events of this week, that it's a different world. But the truth is that it's not a different world. I think that what happened this week is just a stark reminder of the real world. Human nature is that we tend to fall asleep a little bit. As traumatic as things are, the Rabbi Hashem puts a kayach into us that we forget, and after a while we're reminded. The real news, it's unfortunate that that's the way it is, that the big blazing headlines and the networks and all the major news sources are when the tragedy takes when Mashiach is going to come, it's going to be just the opposite. The real news is going to be, Eliyahu Navi is going to come, is going to say, and I'm going to show you now how many tragedies didn't take place. I'm going to show you how many bombs did not go off. I'm going to show you how many trains did not crash. I am going to show you how many times you passed the garbage can. And there was absolutely nothing there that you thought was important. And you even dropped the soda can onto a ticking bomb, where somehow the guy didn't connect the right wire to each other, or he forgot to flip the on switch, or somebody else came and dropped a piece of chont into the garbage can, and that totally undermined and neutralized whatever bomb was there. I mean, you don't know how many nisim and miracles go on in the course of our life. Ein bal hanes makir b'nisai. As it says, Hallelu es Hashem kol goyim, all the nations of the world are going to praise Hashem, because they know what almost happened, or plans that are devised that did not come to fruition. Still, when events of what took place in Boston, and as we pray for everyone, take place, it shakes us a little bit, because we're not quite sure where we're going to walk or what's going to happen next. Nothing really changed. There's just a reminder of that. But we would like to know, what can we do to kind of protect ourselves? So, the story goes that the U.S. Army was introduced someone to sell life insurance to the soldiers. And the general of that particular battalion let everyone know that he really wants them to buy the policy, given that his son-in-law was the life insurance agent. I don't know if this is true, I'm just illustrating. Sapphiring, whatever you want to call it. And they had two policies that you can buy. Maybe that was the second stage of Obamacare. If you don't have a life insurance policy, you get penalized. But there were two stages that you can buy. The two policies you can buy. You can buy a $5,000 term policy, or you can buy as you get $5,000, you can buy a $5 million whole life policy. And they were trying to get the soldiers to buy the $5 million whole life policy. But why should they? They just wanted to do the basic minimum, the regular $5,000 term. And whatever they said to the soldiers about what, they can supply for their families under these circumstances, no one was buying. So one Yid got up there and said, let me talk to them. Just give me a commission. And he gets up there, he says to the soldiers, he says, Chevre, listen here. You have a choice of, if you get killed, you get $5,000, or you get $500,000. Right? He says, I want to ask you something. If the army has to pick who to send out on a dangerous mission, do you think they're going to send out the $500,000 policy guy or the $5,000 policy guy? So everyone went out and bought the $500,000 policy. So what can we do in terms of our own life to try to buy a $500,000 policy or even more in that context? So the Gemara tells us that we're making a bracha. The whoever bought the tina was a shliach for. I told him that. I'm not taking a tea from anyone else. It's just a shliach for Yosef ben Itachai, Yishav Refu Shalema, Brechatah, Yinoy, Yeminim Melchem Shakal Livray. In the Zohar, there's a story about one of the Tanoim that was walking, and he sees a guy walking in the distance, and this person sits down, and there's a snake that's creeping up, and his tongue is sticking out. You see the saliva. I don't know if snakes have saliva, but and his eyes are dripping, and he's about to go in for the bite. And the last second, this guy takes a stone and goes, and just puts it down and crushes the snake head. He has no clue what he just did and how close it was for him to be on the Olam Emes. He gets up, he starts walking, and kaboom! Behind him, huge avalanches of stones come crushing down. And this guy was just saved from Skilus Refer Herik Chenek. He doesn't even know it. So whoever was Rabbi Abba runs after him, I think, and he stops him. He says, hello, Mr. Rabbi Yid. He says, yeah. You know you were 2 seconds away from a snake biting you? Who says? And he shows him the snake with the crushed head. Bah! Who killed it? You just did. And by the way, look at the rearview mirror. And he sees all the stones he was sitting on down the mountain. He says, you had 2 major miracles occurring to you within split seconds. What schus do you have? I don't know if it would sell him a life insurance policy, right? What schus do you have? He said, I don't know. Simple guy. You have to have a schus. This wasn't pasha. He said, every night before I go to sleep, I said, anyone that did anything to me, anyone that I carry a grudge against, anyone I'm angry at, I am Michael. From my mother-in-law to my wife, to my kids, to my boss, to my neighbors, to my friends, to everybody. Down the line, to my life insurance agent. Everyone. Down the line. I'm Michael, everybody. So he told him that's your schos, and that is why in Kriya Shema Lamita we say the words Rabbi Shalom Hareini Michael, because that is a skula for Arichas Yom. So therefore, I think that if a person feels a little nervous, because we live in a world that anything can blow up at any second, I'd love to tell you it's not that way. So we don't just sit back. Ramechlos Lotcha said there's two things you shouldn't worry about. Things you can do something about, and things you can't do anything about. The things you can do something about, do it. The things you can't do anything about, so why worry? That's easier said than done. Okay? When the guy hired someone and said, I'm a chronic worrier, he says, I'm going to pay you $5,000 a week. I want you to do all your worrying for me. Good job. No? The guy said, no problem. He says, can I ask you, where are you going to get to $5,000 a week? It's your first job. It's not worrying. Okay. So really, the Zohar basically says to us that this is a skula for Richas Yamim. And it's a skula to survive things that are exploding around us. And that is to be Michael, everyone, before you go to sleep. But let's take this a step further. There's a famous mashal of two people that are freezing outside in the winter in some freezing town in Russia. And two people, the rich man comes by and he says to both Yankel and Baruch, he says, Yankel and Baruch is 100 ruble. Go in and get yourself a fur coat, a fur-lined coat. So they go into the store and they say, we want a fur-lined coat. And the store owner says, that's great, but 100 will get you only one fur-lined coat. And Beryl and Shmerel says, okay, you, no, you want, okay, you'll get it, okay, you want you. And 2 seconds, what do you mean, you? Why you? Not me, why you? And the second, they're killing each other. You ever saw in a line, you ever saw two people? Once in the doctor's office. Okay, who's next? We forgot who's next. Oh, you're going? Yeah. Okay, you go. Okay, you. Oh, you're not. Okay. I said, go. You want to go? Yeah, you want to go? Go. You want to? You can go. You go. Wait. All of a sudden, no, they're killing each other. Like, what was the first? You go first. You go first. You're not letting the guy first. This is because you want to be the nice guy. You want to say you go first, and he says no. But when he said you go first, you didn't really want him to go first. People say things they don't necessarily mean. You know that. They say, what's the definition of a nudge? You ask him, how are you? And he sits down and starts telling you about his life. I didn't mean to say that. Now, so they're killing each other. And they're saying, you don't deserve the coat, you're sick, and you don't deserve the coat because I'm more sick than you are, and each one's trying to prove that they're more sick, that they deserve the coat. You don't deserve the coat. And one pulls out his medication, the other one pulls out, same medication. Says, I have 600 milligrams, you have 700 milligrams, I have 400 milligrams, I'm sick, this prescription, this doctor always gives, they're going at each other's necks. And the rich guy's walking in to see what happens. So the owner of the store says, do me a favor, the rich guy's coming in. I'm going to prove to him this guy doesn't need it, I need it. I'm going to prove to him this guy doesn't, I need it. He says, no. I know this rich guy. Well, listen to me? You're listening to me? First of all, take your hands off each other's neck. Thank you. Each one should say to him why the other guy should get the coat. They trust him, he's a businessman. The guy says, what's going on over here? What are you fighting about? So one of them says, my friend needs the coat, he's sick. Look at him, he's so pale. I can't take the coat, I can't see him freeze. The other one says, no, he must have the coat. It rains in his house. He must have it. No, you have it. No, you have it. And again, they're fighting each other, going at each other's necks. You have it. The guy says, okay, here's another 100, you should both get it. So they say to the owner of the store, hey, it worked. How did this work? He says to him, I know this guy, he'll listen. If you would have said you don't deserve it, you would have said you don't deserve it, he would have said, okay, you're right, both of you don't deserve it, I listened to you. Would have taken back his 100, you would have had nothing. You say you deserve it, you say you deserve it, you both get it. And that mashal applies to ourselves as well. That the Rabbi Shalom listens to us. So if we're busy, angry, why him? He doesn't deserve it. Why did he do the shidduch? I wanted that shidduch. Why does he do a shidduch with his son? And my son is still waiting. Why does he get the job? I don't get the job. It's a conspiracy. It's this. Why does he make it in business? Why not me? The other guy says, what does this guy want from me? What is... The Rabbi Shalom listen to you. We're but if we're each trying to bring rayas where the other one should get it, the Rabbi Shalom listens to us all. And that's the end of being Michael someone. the equation changes. So when Moshe Rabbeinu said Kedoshim to you, so what does Rashi say? Normally, how did Moshe Rabbeinu teach the Torah? First, Moshe taught it to Aaron, and then to the Zakanim, and then to his children, then to the Zakanim. The whole process in the Medrash. Parshas Kedoshim, everybody in one shot. Everybody in here. Men, women, children, Mitzianim, Bainanim, you didn't make it into the yeshiva, you didn't make it into the yeshiva. Everybody in. The Aleph track, the base track, the Gimel track, the sub, the tough track, everybody in. Everybody, one shot, everybody got to hear this. Because the Yesod of Kedusha, and eventually the Yesod of an Adam L'Chaveiroi, depends on you looking to your friend and saying, Rabbeinu Shalom, help him, he deserves it. That's what some Sefer says. Some Sefer says that the Rabbeinu Shalom listens to people that are willing to be Ma'ir Rachman for others. I'll tell you a scary thing. Rav Pam once told someone who was giving his wife a very hard time. Rav Pam told him, you know what the Torah says about being Mitzayir and Almana? And the guy, bah! You know, I'm still around. You know the guy that came collecting, he said, I'm collecting for my Almana and 7 Yisayim. I said, you're out of your mind, you're collecting for your Almana and 7 Yisayim. He says, what does it bother you that I'm alive? He goes, you know. So he asked Rav Pam, what do you mean my Almana? Was why does the Torah listen to the cry of an Almana? The Torah listens to the cry of an Almana because she's supposed to turn to her husband who's going to protect her, and she has no husband to turn to. So the Rebbeinu Shem says, I'll listen to your cry. But if the husband is the one that's being Mitzayir the wife, so the wife has no one to turn to. So she's an Almana. So just be careful what you're doing and how you're doing it. That the patience that you give to your family, the Rebbeinu Shem gives that patience to you. Somebody once told me he was riding in a car, and he overheard this conversation. The phone rang, and the guy screaming at his wife. He presumed it was his wife, from the way he was talking. He said, I told you I'm going to be home in 5 minutes! Why are you calling me every 15 minutes? Get that? The patience that we have with the members of our family, because we say, okay, the person's nervous, relax, it'll be okay, instead of getting angry, is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu listens to us. Now, there are 3 rules, the Svarim say. The Rebbeinu Shalom listens to people that have no one to listen to. The Rebbeinu Shalom listens to people who listen to others. That's what the Nefesh HaChaim says. It says, Shnayim sheyoshvim v'yesh b'neiim divrei Torah, 2 people that sit and there's divrei Torah amongst them, Shechina shruya b'neiim, shnemer v'yakshav Hashem v'yishma. What does this mean, Shnayim sheyoshvim v'yesh b'neiim divrei Torah? I think we haven't said this in a while. I once did a study on this. There are 3 types of chavrusa. Type A, Type B, and Type C. Type A chavrusa is the perfect match. One person is saying a raya, the other one is slugging it up. One person says the other one is thinking what he's saying, you know. Then there's a Type B chavrusa. Type B chavrusa, where one guy is screaming his head off, and the other guy's like nodding. Then there's a Type C chavrusa, where like they're both saying together. They're not even on the same page. They're not even on the same set. They're saying together. Notice this guy comes to a shir. He says, tomorrow we're making a siyum. No, we're not. What went wrong? Problem was that the Maggid Shir was using an art scroll Gemara. He was using a regular Gemara. Every time the Maggid Shir turned the page, he turned the page. But there were 3 pages for each page. So he was making a siyum a lot earlier. You have chavrusas that have no shaykhs to each other. Right? Then you have chavrusas that are sitting and shmuzing. Then you have chavrusas that aren't there. I remember when I was in Kail, the guy used to put his hat down to then run. I remember the Maggid Shir saying, what is this, a hit and run? You know, a hit is the hat in Yiddish. That was not the majority of the Kail. The majority of the Kail was sitting and learning, believe it or not, despite all Kail jokes. But there's different types of chavrusas. Now, the greatest level in a chavrusa shaft is you sit down to learn with someone who is not necessarily the greatest Goen in the world, and you are way ahead of him. But you're sitting down to learn with him, and you're listening to him. And you have nothing to gain by listening to him, because you are intellectually far superior to him. But you are still listening to him. Yes, so that's pshat. Aha. So that's what it means. Okay, gewaldig. No problem. Aha, aha. I hear what you're saying. Let me explain it to you. And you're listening to what the person is saying, and you're willing to give him time. That is the greatest level of a chavrusa shaft. Somebody once came to the Stifler and said to him, what should I do in my yeshiva? There's no one on my madrega. I can't learn with anyone. What should I do? So the Stifler told him, learn with the guy that's underneath your madrega. But I can't really shtaigeist the way I should. You'll be rewarded mida keneged mida. And he said to the Stifler, how will I be rewarded mida keneged mida? He said, you're going to go to the next yeshiva, and another guy will learn with you. And you won't be on his level. I don't think that's exactly what he was waiting for. But Pshat says, the shnayim sheyoshvim v'yesh beineihem divrei Torah. Yesh beinayim, says the Chaim Volozhiner, they're listening to each other. Want to hear what you have to say. What a chush of a thing. Aha. So the Rebbe Hashem says, you're listening to him when you don't have to listen to him. Guess what? I'm listening to you. When you say Rafa'inu, when you say Baruch Aleinu, when you say the Hashem Mimenu Yogan Mi'anocha. The Rebbe Hashem listens to people who listen. And says the Chassam Sofer, the Rebbe Hashem listens to people who don't isolate themselves. And that's why Kedoshim Tiyu has to be everyone together. Has to be everyone together. Now, Parshas Kedoshim begins with a series of contradictions. Kedoshim Tiyu. It's a tough world to be a Kaddish. Ki Kaddish Ani. I know Hashem, you're Kaddish, but we're down here. I know you're with us down here, but we got this massive Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara is getting more and more nuclear devices at the tip of his tongue, you know. And the Parsha goes on. Ish Imoy v'aviv teiro. So there's Kibbut Avayim, and there's Moira Avayim. Kibbut Avayim means honoring your father and mother. It's much easier to honor your mother, because she's the one that gives in and gives you the pizza, even though she said, you are not going. I remember once I was in Square Town for Shabbos. It was the Rebbe was on Gesund, his first son was getting married. So it was the first big chasam. It was like, everybody was excited. And they went for a walk Shabbos afternoon. I kid you not, I must have heard 50 times. If you're not going to sleep, you are not going to the chasana. I guarantee you that there was not one kid that missed that chasana. You understand? Your mother gives it, so you love your mother. Mother, it's easy to do kibbut. To yira from your mother is hard. For your father, it's easy to do yira. So ish ima aviv tiro. By yira, you got to break it, and you got to fear your mother. By kibbut, you got to try to be mechabed your father. You have to work out the contradictions. In other places it says kibbut aveim, afterwards it's mikdash tiro. But if your father tells you to be mechal Shabbos, you can't. Ish ima Torah shapsais tishmayu. So first you tell me how great kibbut aveim is, then you tell me, but if he tells me mechal Shabbos, I can't. Yeah, that's what life is. Life is contradictions. You pick up the pieces and you move on. What happens when people face tragedies is sometimes it's very difficult for them to pick up the pieces and to be able to move on. If you ever notice, there's something I call texitis. And that is the ability of a person texting and he can't stop. I mean like this. There's a conversation doesn't stop. I was once watching this. All right, I'll see you later. I say, okay, no problem. Okay, bye. Take care. Like, it's like a piece of tape to your foot. You can't, you take it off, you try to get it onto your hand, it's on your hand. You stick it onto your foot, it's on your foot. You can't do it on the other hand, it's on the other hand. Sure. All right, see ya. Okay, good night. Yeah, take care. Finally it stops. The other guy goes, by the way, no, don't start again, please. Right? You have to be able to cut things to say the day's over, and it's the guy's weiter. There's a lach in Shulchan Aruch when he's supposed to start counting Sfira, as soon as it gets dark. It says the Beis of Ram, when do we count? As soon as it gets dark, a new day, count Sfira. Go on. Go on. If you want to stop there and say we're doomed, we're finished, wherever we walk, it'll blow up around us. There's no guarantees in this world. Then you're finished. It happened. There's a tragedy. You do what you can to help the people that are hurt. You pick the pieces up and you go weiter. We face contradictions in our life. Work it through. And the greater a person works through contradictions, the greater the Kedusha. That's why Parshas Kedoshim starts off with contradictions. Starts off with your father, your mother, yes, Shabbos, they tell you to be Mechal Shabbos. Then we go to the mitzvah of Pigel, there are deadlines for Kutchim. Kutchim has deadlines. You miss the time, you have to burn it. Every single day there's opportunities. You can't miss the time. You have to move on. The Heilige Rishon asked, what's this with the days of Sfira Sawaimer? The Ramban calls it the Great Chalamoid. Should be one big amusement park, right? All 7 weeks. On the other hand, we're told that it's Avelus. The truth is, on Chalamoid, you're not allowed to cut your beard, you're not allowed to shave your beard, and you're not allowed to do certain things. And on Tzvira, you're not allowed to shave, but for totally two different reasons. Why can't you do it on Chalamoid? Because it's Yom Tov. We want you to be v'simcha. And therefore, we demanded that you do it prior to Yom Tov. So as a penalty, and you make sure next time do it prior to Yom Tov, you can't do it during Yom Tov. So the issur of shaving on Chalamoid is to generate more simcha. Yet on Sfira, it's also veilus. So which one is it? Why are we not shaving? Why are we not taking haircuts? Is it because of veilus, or is it because of Chalamoid? Says the Rishon, it's up to you. It's what you do with the Sfira that makes the difference. Sfira means counting. The day is over, it gets dark, you count the next day. If you do that, it turns into Chalamoid. If you don't do it, it sinks into a veilus. I heard an interview. I don't like listening to the radio, but it happened that I was in a car and someone turned it on. because I asked him to. Well, actually, but they were interviewing a doctor in one of the Boston hospitals, and he said one of the most, like, really, I think, blood-curdling things. So the interviewer said to him, how did you, he says he went over to one of the patients, and he had to tell him when he awoke consciousness that he had to amputate his leg, Rahman al-Islam. So the interviewer said, how did that person say, how does a person, Rahman al-Islam, we're crying, horrific tragedy, who wakes up without a leg? So the patient said, this is what the patient said. The patient said that I was lucky because I saw my leg on the ground, Rahman al-Islam. I saw it detached. And I saw myself bleeding. And I was convinced I would die. And if you're telling me now I'm going to live, I'm thrilled. I'm very happy. Had I not seen myself about to die, if I wasn't convinced I was going to die, if I was just knocked unconscious and I woke up and I don't have a leg, I could have never done with the tragedy. I would have never gotten through the trauma. But because I thought I was going to die, I was sure I was going to die. I was bleeding. Who was stopping the bleeding? Some heroic first, responder jumped in and stopped the bleeding. So now I have an appreciation for life. You understand what he was saying? Do we really have to have life threatened in order to have an appreciation for life? Can't we just wake up there and say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I know to start with that the Rabbi Shalom, I need you, that there are no guarantees. I think we say the story once a year, and I don't think we said it yet. The Bitzel Levorka was once traveling, and they loaded everything off the stagecoach, and the stagecoach, all the suitcases were piled on top. Stagecoach takes off. They yell after the driver, you forgot to take off the suitcases! And he yells back, no, I didn't forget. And everyone's devastated. All their clothes, their papers, their money, they're gone. And the Bitzel goes saying, no. How can you say, no? You just lost everything you have. He says, I assume when I give a suitcase to a stagecoach guy, I assume I will never get it back. So every time I get it back, I say, Gewaldig, what a present Hashem gave me. Oh, Hashem must always give me presents. You assume that you're always going to get it back. So you have a problem. As I've told you many times. The Yiddish that goes to the counter by American Airlines and says, hello, you see this duffel bag? I want you to go to Belgium. You see this suitcase? I wanted to go to London. You see this other suitcase? I wanted to go to Puerto Rico. So, sir, we can't do that. You did it last time, right? Why can't you do it this time? If we don't need tragedy to happen, if we say to the Rabbi Shalom, I know I'm vulnerable. When I wake up in the morning, I say Moida Ani because I know that life is a gift. So we can be Zoichet to Simcha without Chas V'Shalom having to see traumatic things. And we're not terribly shaken when things don't go our way because we never had a right to assume that it will go our way. As I've told you many times, I tape in this attic. Right, Moshe? Moshe's been up there? Yes. And all sorts of things. So there's all sorts of, so doing construction on my block. So I tried to figure out, I have to get this thing recorded. And it had to be done right, when it's quiet. So I figured out the exact hour when the construction stops, when they go on lunch. Yes, their lunch hour is like from 2 till 5. So the exact lunch hour. And had it all figured out. And it had to be on a day that the weather's not too hot. And I disconnected the phones, upstairs, downstairs, the doorbell. I just had to get this little recording straight. I said, I got everything packed. You're not going to believe me what I tell you now. Okay? I start taping, and all of a sudden there's this flapping on my back. And I look up, and there's this bird flying. I want to tell you something. I flew down that ladder so fast. Whoa. And after I caught my breath, I climbed up, and this black, peculiar bird was sitting there, and he was staring at me with his red nose, as if to say, what are you doing here? I'm saying, what am I doing here? What are you doing here? Then he looked around, he was such a Rahmanis, as if to say, how do I get out? I said, how did you get in? Same way, get out. He looked at me like, please don't schluck a Paris early this year. And I'm saying, Rabbi Shalom, I'm like, I took care of everything. Now this. So I called my kids to get up to open the windows. They were just busy taking pictures. I'll tell you, I heard this, what's his name, this fellow that won the Venezuela new presidency. What's his name? Maduras. So he said they're very into Kishuf and Shamis over there. So he said that a bird came to him and stood on his shoulder, and he said that was the neshama of Hugo Chavez. No. He came to my attic. I'm telling you. That was him. I'm telling you. Never, so I was trying to say, God, what do you want? And I said, I say this lesson 1,000 times and I always forget. I arranged everything except for one thing. Rabbi Shalom, please make this work. And if you don't say, Rabbi Shalom, please make this work, then Rabbi Shalom has plenty of birds out there that are going in different directions. I once told some people, always asked me, you're going to be there? I said, barring any unforeseeable event. I said, why do you always say that? What about the foreseeable events? I said, the foreseeable events, that's also, I say, that's really the unforeseeable events, because we don't know what we're foreseeing. When I say unforeseeable, I mean foreseeable. You looked at me like I had charot, I asked you the question. Rav Moshe Schwab, Zechon Levracha, he once met a Rosh Koil that was having a very hard time collecting money. He said to him, where are you up to? He says, I'm closing my koil. He says, why? He says, I have 10 years of life, and I just can't. He says, I just can't raise the money. He looked at him and said, you want to take my advice? He says, yeah. He says, take another 5 years of life. I'm talking about sending off 5. Take in another 5. He took in another 5, and the koil shot up. He said, there are times in our life we're about to give up. Oh, the Yetzer Hara loves giving up. And once we do an act that defines giving up, you're in his hands. But when you say to the Yetzer Hara, things don't look good, but guess what? I'm ordering supper next week, and there's going to be a next week, and there's going to be a next year, and life is going to go on. When you turn it around, you get the Schachter, the Shmaya, to be able to make it work. Somebody asked me to come to a shiur tomorrow night. I said, I'm not feeling well, I'm not up to it. And I said to myself, I got to practice what I preach. I said, I'm going to be there. You okay? No. But I'm hoping that's why I'm going to be okay. In life, the attitude is, and Baruch Hashem, feeling better. In life, the attitude is, don't look at yourself and say, I'm not feeling well, so I give up. Take on new things and say, well, Hashem, I got to do it. I did my job. You do your job. Look ahead. And don't wait for things to be perfect. I can't take on new Yingal light. I know where I'm going to pay for it. Of course, everything has to be reasonable. Everyone has to know with his own rationale. Somebody once asked Rav Victor Miller's Zechon Levracha that how come he didn't become chassan yet? So he told him, because you're waiting for the perfect shidduch. Perfect shidduch is not good. The perfect shidduch is an illusion. You have to wait for the almost perfect shidduch, but it can't be perfect. If you wait for the perfect shidduch, he said, it's like pills. You begin to chew it, you see it's never good. For 40 years you'll be waiting for the perfect shidduch. In life, you don't wait for something that's perfect, because you'll never get it. You wait for something that's not perfect, but it's the best that I can do. Now you know that you need the Rabbi Shalom. The element of uncertainty is the greatest bracha in the world, because it reminds us that we need HaKadosh Baruch. One of the things that I am known for doing is my cell phone disappearing on me. So somebody gave a good answer. He said, when you sit down to learn in the Beis Medrash in the afternoon, put it in your hat. I usually put my hat down like upside down like this. Put the cell phone in your hat. I said, people want to know why my hat's spinning around and around. They say, no, put it in your hat. Okay? I said, this way you can never lose it. That's if you remember to take home your hat. You don't take home someone else's hat. Okay. So I did it one day. You know what happens when you're in a rush and you grab your hat and you're about to run, and you throw it on your head and you forget that your cell phone is in your hat? I'm not going to illustrate it now, but it's so great when the whole Beis Medrash turns around, it's like, crunk, ouch, and it flies off. Like, what did you do now? Never mind. You pick up the battery, please, and you pick up the cover, and you pick up the thing, and There are no foolproof things. They say the story, there was this old man, from the village. He comes, he sees this big, beautiful, like chainik, like this teapot. Wow, it's on wheels, and it's connected to hundreds of cars. It's so exciting, it's coming toward him. And the conductor's going, beep, beep, he's on the track waving, and a guy pulls him away the last second, and boom, it hits him, and he's knocked out of the wind. He goes, whoa, what a dangerous machine. And he comes home, there's a little teapot cooking. And the father grabs it, throws it out the window. What'd you do? He says, if that gets big, do you know how dangerous it is? That is when we worry, that's what we're doing. Do you know what to worry about? You don't know what to worry about. We have, in the last 2 days, so I read the amount of verdächtige peklech, the amount of chayfetz chashuds, of suspicious packages, that bomb squads over the country. What was a crazy number? People are nervous. They come home, there's a briefcase, there's this, that. The guy comes home and help, bomb squad, suspicious package. That's your mikvah bag. Oh, sorry, no. Cancel. Right? In the White House, there's a suspicious package. Now, are we being paranoid? You know something? We're not being paranoid. It's real. If any madman can take cream and peanut butter and put it into some kind of a hot plate and blow people up, so wherever you go, you're not safe. But the teretz is, we forget and life goes on. And the truth is that the chances of having to be next to it is next to nil compared to things in life that are really, really concerned, that are really, really frightening. I once read a report about one of those cops that was on the real dangerous, he always got the dangerous neighborhoods, he had the toughest missions, and he was so nervous that he smoked all his life. Didn't realize it's the smoking that did him in, not the bullets. Most of the time it's the worrying that does us in. But right now, because the country has gone through this horrific tragedy as an experience, everybody's overly cautious. But the overly cautious is rationale. What's going to happen is the amount of suspicious packages are going to go down, 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 until it goes back to the regular amount. Not because we're any safer, because we forget, because life goes on, because we have other troubles. So what we have to do is to go right to the other troubles. We'll discuss many times what Rabbi says. Most of the things that you are worried about aren't your real problems, and most of the problems that you're going to have are not the things you're worried about. That Adarabah, the daig is a bracha. If you're worried about it, it's a sin that the Rabbi is giving to you as a kayach of tefillah. You know, there's a study that medical students, when they begin to learn about new diseases, they wind up wanting to get checked themselves out. They feel they have those symptoms. They wind up wanting to get checked themselves out. They feel they have those symptoms. Right, you see? I told you. Great men think alike, you know. We have a 7-second delay here in case I say something foolish, but obviously you have to erase everything, you know. Somebody told me, he had his fellow, he was teacher for us, he was describing a certain illness, and he was saying, it starts with stomach pains, and you saw everyone going, and he was describing the pain. It works your way through the center of your stomach, and it spreads like this. And you can see all the students going, ow, you know, as it goes on, right? Then it goes to your ears, like, ah, you know? Then it affects your eyes. You don't see clearly, you know, through the glasses, like, and you really believe it. That's the Metzias. Kedoshim Tiyu means, hey, there are going to be concerns. And somebody once told me a great word. Safik deraisa is l'chum, right? Safik derabanan is l'kul. Very good. Now, what kind of a safik is mutar min ha-Torah? A svek sveka. What's a svek sveka? A double safik. In other words, maybe there's a problem, and even if it's a problem, maybe there's nothing wrong with it. I'm going to start going into examples now. Most worries turn it into a svek sveka. Maybe that's going to happen, and even if it happens, I'll endure it. So if the Torah says you don't have to worry about a piece of chazer because of a svek sveka, you don't have to worry about yourself either. Then life goes on. Turn life into a svek sveka. And also, I'll tell you what one of my rebbeim once told me. I remember my father told it to me. There's a rule. Suppose a woman is she's a bas Yisrael, she's married to a kohen, and the kohen goes me'evrayam. He goes on the other side of the. We don't know. We have no idea what his status is. Can a woman eat truma? As long as she's married to a kohen, she can eat truma. We don't know if the husband is alive or dead. So as long as we didn't hear that the husband died, she can eat truma. Why? There's a trillion reasons why a person can die. But the Gemara says, Shema yamis chashina, Shema mes le chashina. The Gemara says, we're concerned that one day he may die. We're not concerned that he died. And understand that in terms of our own worry. Anything could happen. But the likelihood that this is what's happening now is very unlikely. That's not what we're chayshish for. So in terms of the future, yes, we're mispalel. We're mispalel that people should be safe from bombs and safe from terrorist attacks. We're mispalel that these things, this shouldn't happen and that shouldn't happen. But to say that it's happening right now, remember, that's unlikely. Kedoshim Tiyu, says the Orach Chaim Kodesh, is an ongoing process. Because as you get older, you realize how much more there is to worry about. You hear more and more stories. And the more you say, my life is in your hands. So your level of Kedusha goes higher and higher and higher. And you learn that you can eventually work your way out. And the emes is most worries negate each other. Okay? There was a woman who once came to jury duty, and we wanted to put her on a murder case. She said she's biased because she was once murdered. She actually put this down someplace. So she came back as a bird, then what do you mean you're here? The emes is most worries negate each other. You're worried about an atomic bomb, and you're worried about your health. Well, you can't have both. Both are not going to be a problem. You know what I mean? One gets you, the other one won't get you. You're worried about your business, you're worried about someone suing you, you're worried about this, you're worried about this collapsing. Remember, it's in other words, you're worried about whether you should be happy. There's one worry. Get right down to it. So, let's be a little more positive here and give some more positive advice. There's an amazing Nefesh HaChaim. It's at the beginning of Pirkei Avos, and he says like this. Let's say you have a tremendous chayshik after you hear this shir, and you, little self-esteem over there, and you say, I am going to daven a geshmak ma'ariv tonight. No, I'm really going to give it my whole heart, a ma'ariv tonight. In your rotzon to daven a good ma'ariv tonight, you created an or hamakif. You created a light that surrounds you. It's a light of cheshik and rotzai. When you physically daven ma'ariv, you create a guf for that neshama. Okay? This is the Nefesh HaChaim. Reb Chaim Volozhin, the Talmud of the Vilna Gaon. And he explains it this way. Can you imagine decorating a home before you actually have the house? But in Ruchnius, that's how it works. Because this world is only a mirror image of reality, what's happening in Shemayim. Your eyes see things backwards, by the way. It sees upside down. Your brain changes it. The way it works. We see everything upside down. In this world, you build a house, then you decorate the house. In Shemayim, it goes the other way around. You have a cheshik to perform a mitzvah. You did all the interior decorating, the beautiful pictures, the beautiful light, the warmth of the home. You perform the mitzvah, so you create a home for that light. Okay? Now, Reb Chaim Volozhin says more. You have a cheshik to do a mitzvah. I want to be good. I want to be good. You create a beautiful light that pushes you to do more mitzvahs. When you perform the mitzvah, you create the home, and that is your home in the Olam HaEmes. As we have said many times. The story of that Hungarian Jew that gave loads of money for tzedakah. He passes away, comes up to Shemayim, they show him the big, beautiful villa. When his wife comes, he says, yeah. She says, what did I do wrong? He says, you want to hack me a cup about cholesterol and blood pressure? I could have had this 20 years ago. Schar mitzvah, mitzvah. The schar of the mitzvah is the actual mitzvah that we live in. And mitzvah geveris mitzvah. Because the tangible reality, this R, this light that is created by your cheshik to do mitzvahs, pushes you to do more mitzvahs. Unfortunately, the same is true for Averas. If I have a taiva to do an Avera, I create an Or HaMakiv of Chet around me, which in turn creates a very unpleasant interior to my home. But there's no home yet to lock me into. When I commit the Avera, then I have built the containment process for that cheshik for the Avera to manifest itself. However, here's the catch. Everything in this world, explains the Nefesh HaChaim, has to have a Yesoid in Kedoshim in order for it to exist. So even this koyach of chet has to be fueled all the way on top by Kedoshim. He says that's the union of Esav's head in the Parasha Acharei Mot. Now what does that mean? Let me try to explain that with the Baal Shem Tov. This is the only place where we explain Nefesh HaChaim with Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov says in the middle of Shemona Esrei, okay, all of a sudden you have a terrible machshava, which wouldn't pass for the worst place in the world. Definitely not in the middle of Shemona Esrei, and definitely not in the Beis HaMedrash. So you say, Hashem must hate me. I must be such a disgusting piece of garbage over here. Right? Now, first of all, that sounds terrible for the guy standing next to you, trying to die. Second of all, no, just the opposite. It says the Baal Shem Tov that often the Kadosh Baruch Hu will send you the most difficult machshavas to tend with in the middle of Shemona Esrei, because now is the time that you can crack it. Because by saying, no, I'm continuing to daven, you have destroyed the peace. This is, in other words, the Yetzer Hara was forced to reveal his ammunition so you can destroy it. The bad machshavas that come in the middle of learning or in the middle of davening, because when you continue to learn it and you continue to daven. Like the Baal Tanya says, you imagine someone jumped onto the wagon, he's trying to attack you. You don't stop the wagon, just keep going, keep going, keep going. That destroys the Yetzer Hara more so than anything else. There's this train underneath in the English Channel that goes from one side of the channel to the other. And once the train started burning, and the guy kept going. It started burning as he entered the tunnel, and it flamed up, and he kept going. They wanted to kill the driver. He said, according to the manual, that's what he was supposed to do. And he was right. Because if he would have stopped, the flames would have taken over, everyone would have died. By him going, that contained somehow, you got sometimes the fire is burning, you keep going. That's what leshes ice the fire. Says the Baal Shem Tov Adarab. Now suppose a person is davening and he's overwhelmed with terrible daigas. I have such cheshek, Hashem is going to help me. All of a sudden you begin to think about something very unpleasant, you go, no. And you don't want to daven anymore. No. Hashem gave you this unpleasant feeling during Shemona Esrei because by you davening it, that's how you're going to crack it. The Rabbi Hashem controls which machshavas come up at different times. But let's see, Acharei Mot. What we do with the machshava after the initial machshava is up to us. The initial machshava is not up to us. And they are opportunities. And Memela, it says in the Zohar that a person daven, you daven a Shemona Esrei and you can't get out. It's no good. You daven another Shemona Esrei, can't out. No good. And finally, you daven one good Shemona Esrei. That one good Shemona Esrei pushes through all of the 6 Shemona Esreis in, and you get rewarded for everything. Okay? One disabled car, another disabled car. You come with a good, geschmack, a healthy 2000 Astro that just got a oil change, and boom, you push them all in. Right? How does that work? According to what the Nefesh HaChaim says, we understand it. There's a cheshik, is no guf. Cheshik, no guf. One good guf comes, he pushes everything through. So Rav Pinchas ben Yair meets Rabbeinu HaKadosh. He says, come to eat by me. He said, doesn't want to eat. Finally, he says, Yisrael Kedoshim. Says the Gemara of Chulin, Jews are holy. You know, people are holy. Anyone who wants to be good is holy. Yes, rights of the ain light. Some, want to give. Some really want to give people the food, but they don't have the food to give. Yes, like some have the food, the ain rights, but they don't want to give it. But Yisrael Kedoshim. So what's the kasha? Yeah, there are those that want to give and they don't have the food, so they're Kedoshim. But the guy that has the food, he doesn't want to give it. Why is he Kaddish? Answer being, says the Rebbe of Melech, yes, right, so some have the proper cheshik, he doesn't have the food to give. Some don't have the proper cheshik, but he has no choice. He has to give. He has no choice. What's that terrible joke of the guy that was so stingy? The wife says, no, if we don't have an oirach, I'm leaving you. He has no choice. He goes to the fish store, he buys a rotten piece of fish for a quarter that's been outside for the last 6 months. He brings home an oirach. She says, what'd you bring? And the oirach comes home, he eats it, he's deathly sick. The guy's sick! Goes to visit him. The guy died! Goes to, to Levaya, comes back. What do you have to say for yourself? Such a wonderful world. You know how much that fish cost me? Yeah, quarter. For 1 quarter, you get hachnasa sarchim, biker chaylim, avolas hameis, So you have yeshloi, some people have, and they don't want. Lamaisa, the Rebbeinu Shem is mitzvah of different things. Sometimes you have a cheshik to do a mitzvah, you don't have the physical mitzias of performing the mitzvah. Sometimes you have the physical mitzias of performing the mitzvah, and you do it, but you're not doing it with enough cheshik. What does Hashem do? Hashem puts the two together. Hashem puts the two together. The Rebbe Rabbunim, once told by his Rabbi, go to a certain inn and stand until you learn your lesson. Didn't know what it was. He had come, and he came, he stood there. And he sees the guys crying. He says, I have to sell vodka. If not, the Paris is going to throw me into the dungeon. Not a single customer walks in the entire day. End of the day, a guy walks in. He goes, I don't have a red cent in my name. I'm freezing. You give me vodka? This is what I get. Picks up the vodka here. No, wait a second. Takes it. Crash. It's with this guy. Excuse me, can I have vodka? Here. Crash. They're taking it back and crashing it. The 5th time he goes, here. He says, the Paris is going to throw me in the dungeon. And I have one customer. A guy comes in, he's thirsty. I'm giving it to him. I give it to him with a sad heart. Nah. He had to keep breaking the glasses until he gave him he felt he was giving it to him with a simcha. I'm not sure if that's the way, he didn't mean to say you're supposed to break the glasses. But there's machshava taiva kodesh baruch hu mitzvah l'mais. And this concept goes a little bit more. If you are part of a tzibur that cares for each other, it's easier to make the connection. It's easier min hashemayim for them to make the connection between the people that are doing and the people that want to do. And sometimes, when you have 2 people, our moods change. You're in the mood of giving. You're not in the mood of giving. Now I can. Sometimes you can't. So we're sometimes stuck with the interior decorator without the house. Sometimes the house without the interior. By belonging to a tzibur that cares for each other, it's much easier for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to put the two together. And the same is true for the person in the course of his own life. There are times in my life things are going my way. I want to give and I have what to give. There are times I have what to give. I feel like I can't anymore. And there are times in my life I want to give and I don't have what to give. But if you don't stop, the Rebbeinu Shem says, I'll put the pieces together. Don't worry about it. So the Medrash says a davar pel. He says the king ordered people to watch his wine. Amongst the people that he ordered to watch his wine were a bunch of drunks. Right? So then he comes back, no one touched the wine. The king gives out money to the drunks, he gives 10 times as much. He says, I know how hard it was for you guys. It wasn't easy. In a similar vein, the Ben Ish Chai gives the following mashal. This guy sees where the royal safe is. He comes in the middle of the night with a supersonic electric drill. He has his cheshbonis where that safe is. Comes right through, by mistake comes out into the kitchen. Oh boy, all the cooks turn around to him. He turns around, runs for his life. They grab him. Another guy figures it out, and he comes out into the safe. And he grabs the loot, and on his way out he goes, how can I do this to the king? How can I do this to the king? And he puts the money down, he jumps out. He's also caught. Both are brought before the king. So one guy made it into the safe. He should be killed. The other guy just made it into the kitchen. He's a shlamazel. His GPS is off. So the king says, the guy that made it into the kitchen, achas dasai, or at least he's going to have to pay a price. The guy that didn't make it into the kitchen, that was mamish by the safe and is holding the loot in his hand. And he said, the king said, no, how could I do this to the king? He is going to be promoted to the highest thing. He says the Yetzer Hara gets the best of you. You're so close to that Aveira. You did so much, and you say, I can't do this. I got to stop. I can't. Hashem doesn't want me to do this. You are promoted in a way that no one else is. Kedoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani, says the Ben Ish Chai. Kedoshim tiyu. You're not going to understand who's Kadosh. You're going to say, that guy that was so close to the Aveira, he drilled in, he's Kadosh. You don't know where he stopped. Of course, you can't l'chatchila go in order to stop it. So there's this famous mashal that the king, the Medrash says, the Medrash Tanchuma, this week's Sedra, the king is walking, and he sees this old Hordris. Hordris was not a kind guy. You got him the wrong way. You chop, chop. Hordris is walking, and he sees an old man planting fig trees. He's going to be planting that tree for. You're not going to make it to see those figs. I don't do things for myself. I do what I'm supposed to do. I move on with life. He laughs. The man lives long enough for the figs to grow. He says, I'm bringing this as a present to the king. He brings it to the king. Brought me figs. Who are you? He says, remember, I'm that old man. I told you, life has to go on. He says, wow. And he takes him and he says, he rewards him for every fig. He gives him a block of gold for all of his children and walks him out. You know, this guy has a neighbor, and his wife is driving him crazy. You lazy, good for nothing. Please bring the king figs. Look what our friend got for figs. So the neighbor goes to the fruit store, buys a bunch of figs. He comes to Hordris. So what are you bringing me figs for? So he tells him, I don't know. I see what you pay for figs. So Hordris has him stand by the royal gate, and the entire day he orders anyone that comes by has to ram him in the face with a fig. So he comes home, he wants to give it to his wife. And his wife says, hey, you're lucky. I could have told you to bring a sroigim to the king, right? Can you imagine what would have happened then? One of my kids used to save the sroigim. He used to freeze them and save them for Halloween. When the other guys threw eggs, he threw back a sroigim. I don't know why. But, all right, that's a different story. We'll different share. We'll let that go for now. What is the Medrash trying to say? You know, a guy he's old, there's nothing to live for. I'm planting figs, life goes on. That koyach is every fig is worth so much. Those moments in our life, you don't have the cheshik to go on. Every fig is worth so much more. What do they say? The guy went, he wants a loan by the bank. Well, who's gonna co-sign the loan? My Uncle Josh. Your Uncle Josh? Who's your Uncle Josh? Tell me. Did you ever hear of Singer sewing machines? Oh, that's your Uncle Josh? Uncle Josh, remember that, huh? He goes, you ever heard of Singer sewing machines? Yeah. He says, yeah, that's your Uncle Josh. Okay, no problem. Here's the loan. He goes, is he like the CEO? Is he the... No, he sits by one of these machines, 12 hours a day and sews, in the business. So when I once told this to someone, this joke, he said, that guy is probably more trusted than the CEO. He was better off with that signature. A guy meets his guy's applying for a new job. He says, tell me, are you a responsible person? He says, 100%. You really think so? Yeah? How do you know? He says, every job I had, my boss came back and said, you're responsible for this! Right? We are responsible for our lives. There's a Mordechai Gevart from Shlamka of Seville. It says at the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, it says, Kom Zenoisav Shal Adam. All the mezainis of a person, Kitsuvim Lai, is determined from one Rosh Hashanah to the other. And it also says something else. It says all of the chasrenois, all of the chasroinais of a person are Kitsuvim Lai Nei Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah. What does that mean? I understand all the mezainis of a person are Kitsuvim Lai Nei Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah. So Rashi says, don't go buy a jacuzzi because you only have X amount of money, you won't have enough for eggs. But what does it mean? Kol chasri noisav is kitzuvim loy mei Rosh Hashanah Rosh Hashanah. It says Shlanka of Zevil like this. Kol noisav doesn't just mean your food. It means every drop of pleasure, every drop of menuchas hanefesh, every drop of simchas achayim, every drop of self-pride, every drop of every positive thing in your life is determined from one Rosh Hashanah to the next. And all of your chesroinos are determined. Every agmas nefesh, every worry, every sleepless night, every turn from one side to the other because you can't sleep, everything someone said you that hurt, every conceivable human pain, from anxiety to fear to panic and so on, is determined from one Rosh Hashanah to the next. Now, if you overindulge in some type of a taiva, if it's a taivas isser or even a taivas heter, it's going to have to come off a taiva that was needed. At the end of the day, no one gains from an aveira, and no one loses from the mitzvah. However, if you're smart, and you really stick it out to daven that Shemon Esrei, you stick it out to learn that daf Gemara, You stick it out to sit by your Shabbos table and smile, and you will not give it to your husband, and you will not give it to your wife. And you're going to say, let this pass. It's good. Let it pass. It's good. It's okay. It is okay. You have a little seichel. There's a store someplace. I don't want to say they sell these obscure refrigerator parts. Now, I don't know if you know what it's like, but if a refrigerator tray breaks and this little plastic clip, right? Which, if you ask me, a safety pin works just fine, or duct tape works. But no, I need this clip. And you go to this store and they look up and they say, that clip, we got it. They look up all the parts, they come out with it, $80. $80! You know how many rolls of tape I can buy with $80? You know how many safety pins I can buy with $80 plus more than a safety pin? And you storm out, right? So I had that feeling once. I'm standing there. And this guy is standing in front of me. And he is saying, he wanted his part was $200. And the guy says, no problem. Here's the $200. And he turns around, I don't say anything, but he looks at me. He's like, as if he's reading my mind. You want to know why I'm spending $200 on this? I say, why? Because last time she locked me out of the house for the weekend, the hotel cost me $1,500. That's why. This is true for every relationship. It is true for the irrational things that the men do to their wives. It is true for the irrational things the wives do to the husbands. It's true for the irrational things you do for kibbut aveim and so on. Rabbi Shalom, let me do what I have to do. When there is Mesiras Nefesh, to be able to keep Shalom going, so the Rabbi Shalom says that's your Mesiras Nefesh. What does it mean? Kala makabel of old Torah Mavirim and Ol Malchus Ol Derech Eretz. It's difficult for me to learn, and I learn. It's difficult for me to talk to someone now, that I'm going to smile and talk to him. It's difficult for me to be moichel some of what someone else did, but I will understand that person's feelings. I am not going to hurt him. And it cost me. I want to yell back at this guy in shul. How dare him say that? It's fine, no problem. That Agmas Nefesh comes off from your Agmas Nefesh. And it's the cheapest way, as the Mesilas Yesharim says. You're not going to have any more Agmas Nefesh. So perhaps that is the inyan. It says, Parashas Kedoshim is the parasha that what? Roiv Gufei Torah Ar Tluyin Ba. What does that mean? Roiv Gufei Torah Ar Tluyin Ba. There's a lot of cheshik, a lot of emotion that we have. We don't always have the guf to perform the mitzvah. This is where Roiv Gufei Torah Ar Tluyin Ba. There's the guf of the mitzvah. And it's important that spouses don't hold each other back. I mean, I am sometimes amazed at the people that come to my home and, whoever comes has to have food. Whoever comes has to have food. Get them out of here already! I said, what am I doing? I'm going to make it negative? I'm not the one that's working. If my family is working to provide for them, I should stop them. If there's Parashas Kedoshim, that's why Moshe said, I need all you here. I need the fathers, I need the mothers, I need the kids, I need everyone here. Because right, Gufei Torah Tluyim, but everyone has a cheshek to be good. Everybody wants to be good. The question is only what the price is to pay for it. But if we connect to each other and respect the other person's will, all the gufim are created. Because Hashem puts His guf and connects it to His neshama. But the trick is you have to keep moving. Ma'aseh Shahaya, I read this about this 17-year-old kid in the Navy that was there by Pearl Harbor. And he says he shuttled back and forth the entire night, schlepping bodies and bodies that were burning in oil, dragging them out the entire night. And afterwards he went through terrible trauma. He couldn't get to himself. And they asked him, how did you survive that night? They said as long as he was dragging bodies, there was no time to think. But afterwards he just thinks about the horror of that moment. So they told him to keep dragging people. And he signed up as a paramedic, and he said that saved his life, the fact that he kept on doing it and doing it. There are times in our life we face trauma and we stop. You can't stop. You got to keep going. You got to keep going. So I'll conclude with this story. There was a Yid, he came here before World War I. He wanted to earn money, the gold in America. The streets are paved with gold. He didn't know the price of gold could crash very quickly. And he's in trouble. He wants to get back. He can't get back. World War I breaks out and no ship's going to Europe. He's now separated from his family for maybe 7-8 years. He's going out of his mind. No communication. Does not know if his family is alive, if they're surviving. He's desperate to get back. There's no way you're leaving this country. He has a great idea. He'll join the army. And the army will send him overseas to fight in Europe. And once he gets there, he'll disappear, go home to his family. That's even cheaper. Uncle Sam will pay for the travel expenses. So this 50-year-old out-of-shape guy walks in and he says he wants to join the army. I said, we're not taking you. He says, why? He says, you're too old. The guy said, you don't need generals? What's the problem? So, they went through they gave him the medical, sorry sir, we'd love to thank you for your attempt, you're out. He's depressed, he's so depressed. It was such a good idea. So depressed he wants to give up. His Rav says life has to go on. You're alone here in America, life has to go on. Eventually he goes back to Europe. Now the Nazis are about to destroy everything. Everyone's desperate to get to America. And he's trying to get a visa to America, America closed its doors. And he's standing by the American embassy in whatever European country, and the guy says, hey, the quote is closed. He goes, all of a sudden it comes out of his mouth, but I was once in America. Okay, so you were once there, but the quote is still closed. He goes, I even tried to join the army. He goes, you really were that loyal of a citizen? You tried to join the army? Yeah, and he pulls out this receipt that he got rejected. He goes, so impressed, went in there, got him a visa for his entire family to come back to America. Do we understand how the most disappointing moments in our life, if we have the cheshek to move on, that's the Kedusha, that's Parshas Kedoshim, the Roy of Gufei Torah, the new Gufim of Simcha, Kedoshim Tiu, ahead, the best is yet to come.